From ancient empires to global conflict, the hidden roots of World War II. We see the fire, the ruins, the marching boots. We hear the sirens. World War II, a conflict that devoured between 70 and 85 million lives. We think we know this story. We talk about broken treaties, economic collapse, and the mad ideologies of the 20th century. All of that is true. But it's not the whole story. What if the deepest roots of this war weren't planted in the 20th century at all? What if, to really understand it, we have to go back 2,000 years, to the heart of an ancient empire? What if the ideas that fueled the Blitz were just echoes of a dream that never really died? What if one empire's dream became the entire world's nightmare? The thesis. This isn't a story about coincidence. It's about a direct line that connects the ambitions of ancient Rome to the catastrophe of the Second World War. It's about how powerful ideas of a single unifying empire, a divine destiny, and glorious conquest weren't just remembered. They were deliberately resurrected and weaponized by the fascist regimes of the 20th century. This is the story of a twisted inheritance, where the symbols of a celebrated past were used to justify a horrifying future. The Roman dream. To understand the nightmare, you have to understand the dream. At its peak, the Roman Empire was more than just territory on a map. It was an idea. For centuries, it meant order in a world of chaos, a single power stretching from the hills of Britain to the sands of Mesopotamia. Its legions were the most terrifying military machine the world had ever seen. But their power wasn't just in the sword, it was in the symbol on their standard, the aquila, the eagle, an almost divine icon of Roman might. When a legion marched, it wasn't just an army, it was civilization on the move, projecting power through roads and aqueducts built to stand for eternity. And central to their worldview was the concept of Mare Nostrum, our sea. The Romans looked at the Mediterranean and saw a Roman lake, the heart of their world. This wasn't just geography, it was a psychological claim of ownership, a belief that the world's central artery was theirs to command. This idea of a natural right to dominate an entire region would lie dormant for centuries, an echo waiting for someone to listen. The Roman emperors weren't just rulers, they were living gods, symbols of this power. They built monuments not just for their people, but to awe them, to project strength that would last forever. In its own mind, Rome wasn't just an empire, it was the empire, and that legacy would haunt Europe for the next 2,000 years. The long echo. When the Western Roman Empire fell in the 5th century, the legions disappeared and the monuments crumbled. But the idea of Rome, it never died. It became a ghost, a legend, a benchmark for every ambitious European ruler who came next. Centuries later, you get Charlemagne, who crowned himself Emperor of the Romans to resurrect that lost unity. His realm became the Holy Roman Empire, an entity that lasted for 1,000 years, its very name a tribute to the power it was trying to copy. Fast forward another 1,000 years. Napoleon Bonaparte, obsessed with history, marches his armies across Europe under eagle standards deliberately modeled on the Roman legions. He adopted Roman laws, Roman architecture, and even the Roman title of First Consul. He saw himself as a new Caesar, building a new empire. For centuries, the pattern was the same. When a leader dreamed of uniting Europe under one will, they reached for the Roman blueprint. The echo of the Caesars was always there, whispering of ultimate power. But what happens when that whisper is heard by men with a much, much darker vision? The twisted inheritance. And then came the 20th century. A continent shattered by World War I and crippled by economic depression. In Italy, a nation that felt cheated by the peace treaties, Benito Mussolini came to power. He didn't just want to run a country, he wanted to restore its glory, and his method was a concept he called Romanità, Romanness. Mussolini didn't see himself as a prime minister. He was a new Caesar, destined to build a third Rome. He brought back the ancient Roman salute, He took the fasces, the Roman symbol of authority, a bundle of rods and an axe, and made it the emblem of his party, giving his ideology its name, fascism. He literally reshaped his capital, tearing down centuries of history to glorify the ruins of the ancient empire. But this wasn't about history. It was propaganda. Mussolini openly called the Mediterranean Mare Nostrum, our sea, and declared it was Italy's destiny to control it, just like the Romans. He sold his invasion of Ethiopia not as a modern colonial war, but as reclaiming ancient Roman lands. He was twisting history into a weapon. And in Germany, another admirer of Rome was taking notes. Adolf Hitler was obsessed with the Roman Empire's power and permanence. He saw it as the peak of Aryan achievement, believing, against all evidence, that the great Romans were actually of Nordic stock. He called his regime the Third Reich, positioning it as the successor to the Holy Roman Empire and therefore the true heir to Rome's legacy. The Nazis copied Roman symbols, especially the aquila, the legionary eagle, which became a core part of their iconography. Hitler's plans for Berlin were driven by a desperate need to outbuild Rome's monuments. Even his ideology was twisted from Roman history. He blamed the fall of Rome on what he saw as the weakening influence of Christianity, a religion he linked to Judaism, claiming it had destroyed the martial purity of the Roman state. For both men, Rome wasn't just the past. It was a toolbox full of symbols and excuses for tyranny and conquest. From ideology to catastrophe, this obsession wasn't just talk, it had deadly consequences. The world after World War I was a powder keg. Germany was humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, creating fertile ground for Hitler's promises of national pride. Italy felt cheated out of its promised spoils. And even Japan, an allied victor, was resentful. It gained territory but was denied a racial equality clause it had championed, fueling a new wave of aggressive nationalism. Into this volatile mix stepped the fascist leaders with their twisted Roman vision, and the world let them. The policy of appeasement was born from a desperate fear of another war. When Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland in 1936, violating the treaty, silence. When he annexed Austria in 1938, the world just watched. The Munich Agreement of 1938 was the breaking point. Britain and France let Hitler take part of Czechoslovakia, hoping it would be enough. It wasn't. It just emboldened him. The old Roman idea of a destined sphere of influence was reborn as the Nazi concept of Lebensraum, or living space. The dream of a unified empire was now a demand for racial purity and brutal conquest. This ideology led directly to war. Mussolini's campaigns in Africa, Japan's invasion of Manchuria and China, Germany's relentless push east, it was all the same pattern. Finally, in September 1939, fueled by the idea of Lebensraum and believing the world would back down again, Hitler invaded Poland. This time, it didn't. The dream of a new Roman Empire had plunged the world into war. The connections that shape our world are so often hidden in plain sight. If you find these hidden histories as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And let us know in the comments, what other historical through lines should we explore next? The enduring power of a story. Ultimately, the story of Rome, its power, its glory, its destiny, is one of the most powerful stories the West has ever told itself. For centuries, it inspired incredible art, law, and dreams of unity. But this is also a chilling reminder that history isn't just a set of facts, it's a story. And in the hands of desperate and ruthless men, that great story of Rome was warped into a weapon. It became a justification for racial supremacy, a mandate for conquest, and a license for horror. They showed the world that an idea can be just as dangerous as an army. They proved that an ancient dream, dormant but never dead, could be twisted into a modern nightmare, reminding us that the stories we tell about our past will always shape the future we build.